Margot is a therapist, and her business is Root and Bloom Counseling, and she's going to be talking to us today about mental health.
So important.
I was connected with Margot actually at the very beginning of my work as a doula through a friend of mine who was postpartum. So she said, I had worked with Margot. I took her yoga way to birth childbirth ed class. And if you're going to be working in perinatal, in the perinatal circles, you have to know her. And I am so grateful for that introduction because she's just been such a resource to me and my clients during the time I've been working.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, to be a part of this journey where she moves from yoga into therapy.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her to come and talk to us. All right, Margot, as soon as yep, there you go. Hello, friend.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow, so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been kind of popping in and out today and watching, and I'm just really appreciative of all your work.
All right, we're going to disappear. We're going to let you talk. Thanks for being here, Margot.
Yeah, thanks. So hi, everyone. My name is Margot Strawhall, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. And I just thought I'd start off by just sharing a little bit about my story and kind of how I got to doing the work that I do right now. So I wear several different hats, as Olivia sort of alluded to. I've been teaching yoga since 2006, and I've kind of focused on prenatal yoga since 2012. And then, my main hat that I have worn sort of as a professional has been as a licensed clinical social worker. And I've kind of went in a lot of different realms, but in my last year of graduate school, I worked at OHSU in the Center for Women's Health, specifically focused on perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, perinatal loss, pelvic pain, and offering therapy in conjunction with all of those situations. And it really sort of spurred my interest in serving people at this time. Shortly after that, I graduated from grad school, and then I got pregnant. And once I was pregnant and had my first child that following year, it really shifted my world and was super humbling and eye-opening and transformative in a lot of different ways. And it really just cemented sort of my love of working with people during this time. So so from there, as it is when you are a fresh graduate and looking for jobs, I worked in a couple different places. I've worked as a child and family therapist, and then I've worked for the past 7 years providing integrated behavioral health and primary care in public health clinics. And then once I finished up my loan repayment program this last fall, I was able to kind of shift and move back towards sort of my original passion, which is working with people during pregnancy and postpartum. And so I opened my own private practice just in December. And I'm also working part-time at Legacy in their maternal fetal medicine clinic. So that's a little bit about me. I am a mom of 3. I'm originally from the Portland area. I actually grew up on Sauvie Island, and I love the Portland area, and I'm happy to be raising my 3 boys here who are now ages 8, 5, and 2.5. And I had 3 very different birthing experiences and 3 very different pregnancies and postpartums with each kiddo, and so has kind of informed my work as well. And then, as Olivia mentioned, my kind of side hustles are working as a prenatal yoga teacher and then also teaching the Yoga Way to Birth, which is a comprehensive childbirth education class kind of founded in the tenets of yoga and mindfulness. So that's a little bit about me and how I've gotten to where I am now. But I wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some of the reasons that people might come see me or come to counseling. And those are really varied and kind of wide. I might see people during pregnancy because they're noticing that their mood is changing. Also, there's often fear that comes up around birth, and people are wanting to maybe process the fear or what's going on with that. In the postpartum time, 80% of people who have given birth may experience what they call the baby blues, which are sort of those initial few weeks postpartum where you have large mood changes and maybe feeling much more tearful. But it's not necessarily impacting sort of your ability to function, though. I mean, who can function the way that they used to in those postpartum days? People also come to me to maybe process their birth, whether it was traumatic or not. People come to talk to me because of grief and loss related to miscarriage or infant death. They also might come to me because of grief and loss, kind of just associated with all of the changes that happen postpartum too. I see people for fertility struggles that are struggling to get pregnant and going through that journey. And sometimes I see parents that come to see me like several years after they've kind of given birth, and maybe this is their first chance to kind of come up for air in some ways, and that they are finally getting a chance to maybe pay attention to some of the big changes that have happened over the past couple of years. It's really not uncommon that it might take some time for people to feel like they have the space or even the ability to reach out for help. But what we know about perinatal mental health is that it's very treatable, and people who do seek services and get help tend to start feeling better very quickly. It's all very promising work in a lot of ways. Some of the things that people might be experiencing or seeing that are reasons that might prompt them to come to counseling are things like excessive worry, fatigue, ruminative thoughts, like those thoughts just keep circling or cycling through and through, feeling really overwhelmed, being tearful for no reasons or maybe for really good reasons. Sometimes there might be a feeling of being numb or sort of like they can't connect with their child or themselves, feeling hypervigilant, having nightmares or intrusive thoughts. These are all sort of things that might be coming up and be reasons that people kind of start to think about coming to counseling. But basically, aside from the pathology of what I'm trained to understand as a mental health clinician, really what I tend to focus on with people is function and like what's working, what's not working. Is it helpful to use language, to give language to what you're experiencing? Is it helpful to work with some of these like cognitive behavioral strategies that maybe help you think about things differently? As I mentioned, I teach yoga, and so I definitely incorporate a lot of the mindfulness-based strategies that are therapeutically sound within cognitive behavioral therapy, or also like acceptance and commitment therapy, that can really help people to maybe find ways to move through things without feeling quite so overwhelmed. Like they can do the things that they want to do in their life. And then sort of how people come to counseling and what that looks like, what that process might be like for people. So usually there's some sort of initial contact, either by email or phone. People tend to reach out. Maybe they find me through one of the search directories like Portland Therapy Center or Therapy Den. And then we kind of get a sense of whether or not I might be a good fit as a therapist for them. And then there's sort of the filling out initial paperwork and that sort of thing. And then we finally meet. And right now, all of my appointments are currently by telehealth, which means we're meeting through a Zoom-like format that is secure and compliant with HIPAA. And so we have a way to, there's no Zoom bombing that happens in my sessions. I'll just make that clear. So we have a way to connect right now. And then hopefully once we kind of get the go ahead, from government, I'll be able to resume in-person sessions too. My practice is located in Northeast Portland in the Hollywood neighborhood. I'm sort of embedded in a group practice called Hollywood Mental Health. And yeah, I feel really grateful for the work that I get to do. The pregnancy and postpartum, it's such a tender time. And it can sort of be this perfect storm for feeling off kilter, or that our mental health is struggling, or we're struggling emotionally, just given the changes in our identity, the changes in sleeping, the changes in being able to eat when you wanted to eat, maybe all these things, or move your body how you wanted to move it before. All these changes can kind of just lead to this perfect storm where you are feeling off, and it's hard to maybe re-find your footing. But I promise with support and getting some of the nurturing and guidance that maybe you're looking through something like counseling, we can help kind of get you back on track and feeling grounded again. So I think I reached my 10-minute mark.
You did great.
Thanks.
Well done.
Right there.
Yeah.
Great. Well, if anyone has any questions for Margot, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A or in the chat box. We've got a comment here that says, "We are so happy you're here. Mental health and wellness is such a need during the social distancing measure. My kiddo has been so impacted." So
Yeah, absolutely. That's just so 100% true. And, one little fact that I like to share with new parents that sometimes people find it discouraging, I find it hopeful, but just knowing that like our parent-child bond really actually, when they look at the like attachment of it and how people form secure and healthy attachments, they actually occur in a complicated pattern with mistakes made every 3 to 5 seconds. So all that to say is that we're constantly getting it wrong, and that is actually part of the really healthy attachment style that happens. And so if your kiddo is struggling, I certainly feel for you. And the best we can kind of do in these moments is to make sure that we're kind of checking in with our own selves and our own mental state, and kind of modeling for our kids how to move through these challenging times.
yeah, totally. I also see a question here that says, "Do you take different insurances?"
Yeah, great question. I do. I am paneled with 4 different insurance companies right now. I take Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Pacific Source, and Moda.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for joining us today, Margot. It was nice to see you.
So nice to see you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all your hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. And there is how to get a hold of Margot if you are hoping to talk to her after just hearing from her. She's got such a calm energy, man. That was really nice.
I feel so chill now. I really do.